Welcome back everyone, big stuff going on in Formula 1. Red Bull takes next step on McLaren and Ferrari front wing, or just wings, as FIA plans visit. This is what Red Bull like to do, this is their strategy. They love to complain, especially to the FIA, and mostly just to get the FIA to waste the time of other teams. So those teams are distracted, they have to dedicate time and effort to dealing with FIA inquiries. Believe it or not, in a competitive sport, it is best if you can stay focused on the objective. Now, this strategy that Red Bull is using, they're really just saying like, oh, we have the right to protest, we have the right to question stuff and get you to perform additional tests. But you ever wonder that no one does it quite as much as Red Bull? And really, they use it as ammunition. They use it as a way to get these teams distracted. Now, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, they're really anticipating it. And we all know that whenever Christian Horner opens his mouth, and whoever he points that at, that's who he's really worried about. And he's already admitted that sometimes he protests and he complains just to piss off Toto. That's what Red Bull does. They use it as ammunition. Now, I want these teams to do the same to him. I think probably Zak Brown is probably the only one who's willing to do the same to Red Bull. We've seen Zak Brown actually stood up to Red Bull. But I don't think they're doing enough. I don't think Mercedes, Toto Wolff, Fred Vasseur, Ferrari, I don't think the McLaren guys are doing it enough to mess with Red Bull. I don't think they're doing it enough. I also don't think that they do it effectively because Red Bull loves to play these dirty games, and other teams, they don't stoop that low. But it's in Red Bull culture. It's engraved in their culture. So we're going to go through this information. We want to find out what the hell is going on. Now, in the meantime, I must let you know, I really appreciate the support so far. We're over 1,000 subscribers, almost 1,100. It's been phenomenal. So thank you all for the support. Also follow me on Twitter. Remember now, as the race starts, as the season begins, we're looking forward to live streaming, possibly on YouTube and on Twitter. So we definitely got that to look forward to. So let's get into the news. Ferrari and McLaren are reportedly expected a visit from the FIA after Red Bull lodged an official and accusatory file against them. This is the claim made by the Italian publication, and it relates to FlexiWing saga, which has returned to fore in Formula 1 in recent times. Red Bull action sets up FIA, McLaren and Ferrari visits. McLaren and Mercedes found themselves facing scrutiny from rival Red Bull and Ferrari on the topic of last season. McLaren proactively altering their rear wing design after their mini DRS innovation caused a rumble, a upper and lower elements seen parting down the straight in Baku on Oscar's Piastri winning MCL 38. The FIA would take a step to monitor wing flexing last season, introducing cameras to monitor this, but also found no example of the regulations being breached. However, the governing body has taken action ahead of the F1 2025 campaign getting underway, as more stringent tests on rear wing deflection will be in operation from the start, with the camera returning to monitor the rear wing, this time rather the front. As of round 9 in Barcelona, similar deflection tests will come into force on the front wing, but according to reports, this did not stop Red Bull technical director Pierre Wash, still concerned by flex wing situation, from expressing said concerns to FIA stewards during the Bahrain testing. Said to still be unsatisfied after that point, the publication is reporting that Red Bull has now prepared an official and accusatory file, and the FIA will visit Ferrari and McLaren base at Maranello and Woking respectively for checks. Planet F1 understands that Red Bull is keeping a close watch on perceived indiscretions from its rivals. Planet F1 has approached the FIA for comment, but it's yet to receive any reply. Now, what do we think about these accusations from Red Bull towards Ferrari McLaren? Like I said, I think it's a game for Red Bull. Now, you see, if Ferrari was lodging complaints to McLaren and McLaren was lodging complaints to Ferrari, I'd understand that. But when it's Red Bull who's always the one who's always got something to say, it definitely makes me suspicious and wonder, well, can hardly trust anything Red Bull says. Because I've also seen the Red Bull front wing flexing. Yeah, in testing, it was flexing away. It was dipping at high speeds. So undoubtedly, these wings, they have to flex. They can't be too rigid. Structural integrity is important. Things even like skyscrapers, they're not too rigid. They have to be flexible. Without flexibilities in industrial designing, most of the time it just doesn't accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish. So understand something, these wings, front and rear, they have to flex to a certain amount. Now, the mini DRS for last year, especially with McLaren, I understand that part because, I saw the video myself. I was like, yeah, that is quite a description. And you can't just disregard that. So that I understand. But so far, the flexing that I've seen in F1 testing, especially in Bahrain, all 4 teams are doing it in some way or form. So Red Bull reporting on other teams, they should really report on their fucking self as well. They should really be like, actually, we want to report on ourselves as well because we're doing the exact same thing. Because that's just how Red Bull works. But, they just love to do this. And don't get me wrong, Red Bull being the kind of company that it is, it's an energy drinks company, they have to remain in the media as much as possible. So when you see Helmut Marko, Christian Horner, they're always got something stupid to say. When you see the Red Bull employees and the team personnel always have something to say and do, understand they love to stay in the media. Because, it's all about driving sales of their drink brand. So Red Bull loves being in the media regardless of what it's pertaining to, what it's regarding to. In other news, George Russell speaks out against FIA swearing ban out of hand. I mean, everyone has spoken out somewhat. They can't really say exactly what they want to say because the swearing ban is kind of ridiculous, In no other sport does the athlete have a microphone right in front of their mouth the entire bloody game. In no other sport, after they've just went through an intense competition, as soon as they stop, they get immediately interviewed. They go to the podium, they get interviewed again. After that, then they have to get interviewed by the press and debrief. There's just so much. But in Formula One, immediately as these guys jump out of the car, they're getting an interview. Their radios are being broadcasted to the entire world. I think a simple solution is stop broadcasting their radio to the entire world. But Formula One won't stop that because they love to broadcast these things, especially in a social media age where these clips and audios get reposted and they garner hundreds of thousands of views and likes, basically helping to grow the sport regardless, even if it's in a slightly negative way. A similar thing that Red Bull does, they just like their name being out there in the media, regardless. Helps them to grow their brand. Negative or positive, it helps them to grow their brand. So Russell has described this as unnecessary and indicates of a governance that has maybe gone a little bit too out of hand. I agree. It's going too far. It is absolutely going too far. This sport is not, these cars are not being driven around by children. They are being driven around by professional drivers. Arguably, some of them are young and, some of them are 18, 19, 20, 21. Nevertheless, they are adults. And most of the time, these swear-ins, they're bleeped out. So I really don't understand what the FIA is trying to accomplish with this ban against swearing. After all, these drivers are human. You got to expect some elements of being human within your job. But it's the way the sport is moving in, and it's honestly, it's not the best. It's quite disappointing. Max Verstappen has said Red Bull can't fight for a win in Melbourne. I'm not going to make an entire video about this because I won't believe it until I see it. I won't believe it until I see it. That is a dope photo, by the way. I can use that for some content. But seriously, I won't believe it until I see it, Max Verstappen has ruled out Red Bull out of contention for victory ahead of Formula One's season open in Australian Grand Prix. Although reigning champion Verstappen has won 4 titles in a row and took pole by 0.27 in the most recent Melbourne event, Red Bull slid down the pecking order throughout 2024 campaign as McLaren surged to front while Ferrari and Mercedes also became consistent challengers. It's very interesting. After Lewis leaves and Fernando Alonso leaves, the only other drivers who will be winning Formula One championships will be the new guys, the new kids. And the thing about Formula One, Each year, there has to be a championship victor. There has to be a victor, a new victor each year. And this is the grid. So once Lewis and Fernando leaves, this eliminates them from ever winning a world championship in F1 ever again. It will be these guys. So if it's not Max who's winning, it could be Leclerc, it could be Russell, it'll be these guys. That is remarkable to think. Could be Lando, it will be these guys. That is crazy to think just how quickly Formula One is changing. Just a few years ago, we had Sebastian still in the sport. Kimi was still in the sport. You know, we still had a few OG drivers. So as much as I like to say that Lando Norris does not have what it takes to win a world title. Lando Norris does not have what it takes to win a world title. And I'm not wrong. If he's racing Max, if he's racing Leclerc, if he's racing, Russell, and their cars are also competitive enough to win that championship, Lando Norris is the fourth best out of those drivers. It goes Max, Leclerc, Russell, and Lando, in my personal opinion. In fact, Russell might be above Charles, but they're very close. And only time will tell. When we get to see them competing for their own championships, only time will tell just how good they are. The last time Charles competed for a championship, he was competitive. He was brilliant in some race, especially in the early parts of the season. But as the season continues, what we saw was a few mistakes that were very, very costly. By the way, Lando Norris' birthplace is Bristol. I live in Bristol. I'm a Bristolian. And how ironic that my favorite number is also number 4. But I don't like this guy. Never have, probably never will. So yeah, out of those 4 young drivers, relatively young, some of them are approaching 30, similar to myself, Lando Norris is the 4th best. So against those drivers, do I really see him winning the title? No. But if Max is not in the title fight, if George is not in the title fight, if Leclerc is not in the title fight, who's going to win? It's going to be this guy. Could this guy beat Oscar? Yes. Could he beat Antonelli? Yes. Those are the 4 best guys in Formula One, except for Lewis and Alonso. But in terms of like the younger guys, the guys that are still in their 20s, those are the 4 best drivers. They're the ones who are going to be winning future championships. These guys. After Lewis and Alonso retires, Lewis and Alonso will be here for a few more years, but after they retire, it's Lando, it's Max, it is Charles. There's Charles, and it is Russell. These are the guys that will be winning championship. Maybe Kimi, we don't know how good he is yet, so only time will tell. Oscar can be competitive, and he needs to improve his consistent, and then he could be in the fight. But the top 4 guys, those are the guys who will be winning future championships, and it's just so odd to think about. Just think about that for a moment. But before this, we had Lewis, Sebastian, we had those guys. Alonso, Raikkonen, we had the OGs, and before that we had the Schumacher, we had Schumacher in his era with Mika Hakkinen, before that we had Senna, we had Prost, slightly before that we had Lauda, we had Clark. But this is the first time where we're gonna have just new faces, new young faces that, some of them haven't proven themselves yet, but it's going to be like, if Max is not winning, someone else has to win. And it's going to be crazy to see George win, Charles win, Lando win a championship. It's going to be surreal, like almost as if like, is this even real? That's how we're all getting old, because things are changing. Now, in other news, I'll just end on this. UK motorsport chief threatens legal action against Ben Sulayem. The FIA president, Motorsport UK chairman David Richards, have taken aim at FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem, threatening legal actions unless he addresses what Ricardo calls erosion of accountability and good governance within the FIA. Thank goodness someone is saying it. The FIA has been fucking up and, moving backwards in time, really. Richard, the long-time head of Motorsport UK, was recently blocked from attending a World Motorsport Council meeting after refusing to sign a non-disclosure agreement. The Briton was one of the 2 people banned, including FIA Deputy Director Sport Robert Reid. FIA's situation has progressively worsened, claimed Richards. It really has. But why are they speaking out now? You should have spoken out in 2021 when it was all being fucked up. But you're only speaking out now when they try to force you to sign an NDA and you're like, wait a minute. This is not like the old F1. What's going on here? Yeah, what's going on is it's been happening for a while, but you ignored it when it didn't affect you. So Richard and Reed refused to sign a stricter NDA, which reportedly forbade those attending from discussing matter permitted to the FIA outside official setting amid concern from Ben Sulayem over leak to the media. That appeared to have been the final straw for Richard. The final straw. What was the first straw? What was the second? What was the third? Was any of them Abu Dhabi 2021? If it wasn't, I don't give a fuck. The former FIA team principal wrote a strongly worded letter to the members of Motorsport UK denouncing Ben Sulayem and the FIA's actions and even threatening legal actions against the governing body, revealing he had backed Ben Sulayem delivering in his pledge as he ran for president of the FIA. Richard called out what he saw as distinct failure to meet promises and said the situation is progressively worsened. So you supported Ben Sulayem getting the FIA job. You were, holding arms, supporting each other, kissy kiss here, kissy kiss there, but now you're complaining that your girlfriend is not treating you correctly. You know what? That is your fucking problem, isn't it? Don't make it our problem. That is your problem. You've known Ben Sulayem and the FIA. You've helped them. You're part of the FIA. You're part of the problem. Richard, you're part of the problem. But you don't like it now because you know what? It's happening to you as well. Yeah, guys like Richard, they're part of the problem. So don't complain now talking about taking legal actions. You supported a man to get into his position. What are you going to take legal actions about? Furthermore, he continued, the scope of the Audit and Ethics Committee has been severely limited and now lacks autonomy from the authority of the President, while our UK representative who challenged certain matters were summarily removed along with the chair of the Audit Committee. Going on to call the NDA the final straw, Richard highlighted his reasons for not agreeing to sign it. Everything was now considered confidential without any clarifications, preventing me from necessarily sharing what I consider to be relevant information, he explained. The FIA, at its own discretion, could decide if anyone breached the terms of the new confidentiality agreement with no process or frame of reference. He also revealed that it came with an immediate fine of €50,000 for any breach and any threat of undisclosed damages. Well. So isn't that funny, huh? Isn't that hilarious? But hey, as far as I can see in here, there's nothing about Abu Dhabi 21. So as far as I'm concerned, I really don't give a fuck. Let's move on. That is really it on today's Formula One catch up. Once again, remember to follow us on Twitter. Here's Mr. Beast in a Formula E car at Miami, and he spins around. Typical rookie. It is not that, normal people can't drive these cars. Of course they could. But could they ever drive them as well as a Formula One driver? Not just any Formula One driver, but like a real pro. Make no mistake, Formula One racing is the top of the food chain. Top of the food chain. These guys, they live, they breathe racing. Very different stuff. But hey, I look forward to see if he can actually adapt to the car, and he's got the money, so if he wants to learn how to drive these things, he can. He can afford the correct coaches. He can race 24/7s if he wants to, no doubt. Which is what a lot of YouTubers have done with the boxing world. They can afford to train all the time and get the best trainers. They do that. But even then, they're nowhere as close to being as good as the pro guys. We're going to end the video here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. I really appreciate the help in accomplishing 1,000 subscribers. It's been phenomenal. I know we haven't answered every question, but I'm working on it. I am working on it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, and I will see you in our next video, right? Peace.